Hello and welcome to Nintendo Nostalgia, episode 39. I am your host, Ryan Black, and I am joined by my co-host, Jacob Rush, and we are back and we are playing with power. Jacob, how you doing this week?
Ryan, dude, I am really excited to be here today because obviously you picked the topic for this week, so I didn't have to bombard my brain nearly as hard as I typically have to for an episode. I'm just kind of letting the time pass by. Honestly, I'm playing a lot of older games at the moment in my life, and I'm just kind of patiently waiting to get my hands on some Mario Rabbids and Yooka-Laylee whenever the heck that gets announced. So I'm doing great. I'm just letting the time pass on by, brother. Pass on by. How about yourself?
Oh, I've had a long week. I got called late last night at midnight to go out to the airport and pick up a pet and take it to our kennel and board overnight. And so I had to be back out at the airport at 4 a.m. So needless to say, I didn't really get any sleep last night. So
that sounds so fun.
I have a tiny bit of caffeine in my system, but I'm going to try to stay awake for this episode since it's such a big one, and we're going to have a good old time. So without further ado, let's get into the news. So, Jacob, what did you bring into the table this week for news? There wasn't a whole lot. We were digging, and it was hard to find some stuff.
Yeah, I have to admit, there is not a lot of news right now. I mean, we just had E3 and a couple weeks ago, so a lot of the news I just keep rereading I just keep rewatching demos and things like, oh, I can't wait till that comes out. But no, it's a pretty quiet time in the industry world. They got to rework on stuff to give us more information for newer things or stuff we already know about. But I did find some juicy, awesome, has to be talked about news. The Wii U got a firmware update. Version 5.5.2 came out, I believe, today. If not today, it was this week. But yeah, how awesome is that for Wii U owners?
Wii U was hi guys, it's me again.
Yeah, I got my Wii U. Yeah, I got my Wii U still hooked up only for Netflix and Hulu. That's about it. Maybe occasionally some Amazon. Well, I'm actually using it more as a Wii. I keep playing a bunch of old Wii games at the moment, or virtual console games that I never transported over to my Wii U. So it's been serving me good purposes besides the actually Wii U games as of late. So yeah. It rose from the grave one last time to give us a firmware update as it slowly passed away.
Rumor has it that somewhere in that they're signaling the end of Miiverse. What do you think about that?
I could care less. I never used Miiverse. I mean, I never really understood it. I thought it was a little bit confusing, and it was kind of slow and clunky to get out of games to get into Miiverse, and I really don't care, honestly.
I liked it before they did the big overhaul. I liked how it originally was, and when they took that off, I kind of lost interest. So, and there's a lot of people that like it today, and then I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, sad that it's going away. I'm gonna miss those, Hulk for Smash Brothers, drawings and stuff."
Jeez. I mean, yeah, it was cool that people could draw a lot of cool things, but honestly, I think that was about it that I ever got from it was drawings.
Getting help live from people on how to get past certain parts and how to do certain things in video games is pretty cool. Having an interactive strategy guide, if you will, and that was kind of cool to have that resource. But I'm not super sad to see it go. I liked what it was, and I hope that they keep doing art type things in the future with the art academies and things like that, and still have ways to share them like they do built into Splatoon 2 and I'd like to see some of that stuff still available.
Yeah. Some other bit of news I want to talk about. One thing I've noticed, I'm seeing tons more advertisements for not the Switch, but for the new 2DS that is just about to launch. It's about to come out, I think, next week, and we got 2 new 2DS 3/3DS games coming out. Hey Pikmin and that Miitopia game. So I see Nintendo. It really just kind of hit me today when a commercial came on when I was watching YouTube out of the blue. They showed off a bunch of games. They showed off, this was sweet. They showed off Metroid. They advertised Metroid's coming to it. I was just like, wow, we haven't seen that in a long time, like in a scissor reel and Metroid, and she's running across and shooting aliens. I thought that made my heart smile. Yeah, we just haven't seen much of this. Like, it's always been all about the Switch, and even E3 was focused on the Switch, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong, but it was cool and nice to see. Like, hey, yeah, they got some stuff coming out on this other end, and they're advertising Pokemon in the winter. I'm like, wow, this last half of the year coming up, really they have a lot to offer for the 3DS and 2DS, and my goodness, if I didn't just get a new 3DS for Christmas last year, I probably would. I would jump in on that 2DS action. It looks nice. I think it's a great solution. I think they'll sell a lot of them too. They proved me wrong, because when the 2DS was first back announced, I thought this was dumb. And I mean, I still think they're squeezing every penny they can out of it. I don't think it's going to be alive 5 years from now. But I think that they are, and I said they need to throw heavy hitters out on the 3DS, 2DS to convince me that it's still alive and that they still want to support it. And they have. I mean, Metroid and Pokemon and Ever Oasis. There's some big games on the system that, I think are doing the job and will sell very well for Nintendo.
It does come out the 28th alongside, I believe, Hey Pikmin. I know that the Pikmin amiibo come out that day. Really excited for those and all the other amiibo coming out at the end of the week. So that's wonderful that they're still supporting the 2DS and 3DS line. They did discontinue the 3DS in Japan. Now, they said it doesn't affect the States, but it's kind of interesting to see that that's the end of that for at least Japan's side. So that's a little bittersweet.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that's why I don't think the 2DS and 3DS line are going to be alive for 5 years from now. I mean, that's the first domino. I mean, whether people want to admit that or not, that's the first domino. And you know why they're killing it off in Japan too? Is because Japan. Did you see those lines in Bobby's video?
That was just a line, like Bobby said, for the ticket, just to have a chance at the raffle to get the chance to buy a Switch. That's insane.
The Switch is massive in Japan. I mean, it's massive everywhere across the world, but in Japan they are way more portable handhelds, and the Switch, I think, is going to be overtaking the 3DS, and that's why they're ending it there first. And I think once I give it a year, man, and you'll see the 3DS start to be cut off everywhere.
Nintendo is in another golden age. I was in a Toys R Us just looking at amiibo cards for Animal Crossing. They had some in there. And 3 different occasions, kids ran up and said, "Do they have any Switches? Oh, the Switch is so awesome." Just like we were when kids with Nintendo.
Yeah,
stuff.
dude.
Like, oh man, Nintendo's so awesome. I was like, yes, finally it's happening again. The kids in this next generation coming up are just like, yeah, Nintendo. I'm like, yes, I needed to hear that. That just does my heart good. And
these kids will be running their own show one day.
I spend hours talking to customers about the Switch at GameStop and hear people talking about the Switch. Everybody seems to know a little bit about the Switch. And if they don't know, they've at least heard the name and want to know more about it. And that's where Nintendo needs to be right now. If they can just meet that demand, they're golden.
Well, and even, this is not news topics, I guess, but I think in general here we could talk about just the positivity we see for Nintendo. Like, I got my latest Game Informer, and Game Informer, usually I just kind of breeze by and read a couple things in it because they don't talk much Nintendo. And this was there's Nintendo advertisements every other and there's 3DS, 2DS advertisements and Switch advertisements in this whole magazine, and a lot of it was a lot of the magazine had a very positive coverage over Nintendo. They rated Nintendo the best presentation at E3 out of Sony and Microsoft, and gosh, it just feels so good to see Nintendo doing well, and I hope that they continue. I believe they'll continue to do well. So that's kind of my news in general. It's so great to see positivity around Nintendo. It just keeps building and building.
I brought just a brief news article this week. Hey, cool, this is awesome, that's happening. Jackbox Games 1 and 2, I was really hoping they'd bring those to the Switch, and they did announce those for the Switch. And I know that Jackbox 4 is in development. They haven't announced it for any system, so we'll probably see that on the Switch too. But 1 and 2 have some of my favorite in the Jackbox series, some of those games. So we got to get together and play that, man.
Yeah, I'll have to try it out. I've only played the third one that is on the Switch with you and Brad, and my wife really loved them. So she had me buy it when we bought it, and I'm excited those are coming out. I'll have to pick them up eventually. And if there's a fourth one in the works, yeah, we'll definitely pick that up too. Those are just really fun to play with people who don't really game. I mean, to be honest, I'm really bad at them, but I just enjoy having everyone there to have fun with it. Yeah. I like it, and I'm glad that that's coming.
So let's get into what we've been playing. I got to play a little bit of the Splatfest that they had, I guess the inaugural Splatfest, if you will. I got to play 3 minutes of it. Let's just say I had half an hour before work where I could sit in at the mall and play on the mall internet. And I got 3 minutes in, the match lagged out, and that was the end of it. I couldn't get back on again. So I didn't really get a taste for any of it. But I'm it just left me like wanting so much to be playing Splatoon again and to jump into the world of Splatoon 2. Like, it's just a few short days away, and I am super stoked. As far as anything else I've been playing, I've been playing some ARMS. I've been doing some Pokemon Go, kind of just a little mix of things here and there. I'm not huge on playing my Switch right now, and I think that's because I just want Splatoon that badly that nothing else is really filling that void.
And that's it, huh? Wow.
That's it.
kind of quiet on it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, everyone has those quiet times. I've actually gained a lot of different things the past couple of weeks. Well, first off, I want to just talk real quick that last night my wife was like, "Hey, let's play Mario Kart," out of the blue. And my wife is not a gamer, and occasionally Mario Kart's usually the only game she likes. But I wasn't going to turn her down on saying on a chance to play games when she asks to. So I was like, okay. So we just started playing some Mario Kart. Then about an hour in, we wanted to play something different, and we played. I had the Puyo Puyo Tetris demo. We played that, and first off, she kept kicking my butt at it out of the blue. It's not like she ever plays this game, and I beat her a couple times, but in general, she was winning the majority of the matches. And then, that was around like 9:00 at night, and she kept playing all night long. She played until about 11:30ish, I think. The demo. Wow. She just kept replaying and replaying and replaying. And then, but we tried, I tried to get her. I was like, well, let's just, my wife used to play basketball growing up. She really likes basketball. So I was like, hey, let's try to get the NBA Playgrounds game now, and maybe you'll like that. Mm-hmm. So we tried to download it, and it took like an hour and a half to 2 hours. I was really kind of annoyed because I wanted to play it last night, and we literally played a match, and it was not very fun because she didn't know what to do. So she was just kind of like frustrated with it, I guess. She's like, I don't know how to play this game. And I'm like, well, you're just going to have to play it to practice. But so we bought that. I decided to buy a game just so we could have something new and fun to play together. Because like you, I've kind of beaten everything on my Switch, and I'm just kind of bored with it at the moment. I mean, I haven't beaten my all the trials on Zelda. I have the third one to go. I got to the third one, and I kind of put it off because I know it's going to be super hard, and I'm just like, I'm not ready for this yet. But
Just do it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to buckle down. I'll probably try it. I think I'm going to try again this weekend. But so to make a long story short, my wife, as soon as she gets home today, she comes in and she's like, "Hey, I'm going to play Puyo Puyo Tetris. Is that okay?" And I was like, "Okay." And so she starts playing the demo, and she's like, I was like, "Man, babe, you know what? We made a mistake." I said, "We shouldn't have bought Playgrounds last night. We should have just bought Puyo Puyo Tetris, the real thing, you know?" And typically I like to buy physical when I actually get a game if I can. But she was like, "How much is it?" And I wasn't sure if it was 30 or 40, but we looked and it was 30. And she was just kind of like, kind of sad because she wanted to buy it, but she's like, yeah. I know we shouldn't. So then I just went ahead, logged in, and bought it anyway. So she's actually been playing all night long. She's been since about 5 o'clock. She's been playing Puyo Puyo Tetris. Still, she's playing it right now as we record, and it makes me happy. And I went ahead and bought it because I was like, man, you know what? Just the fact that my wife, who doesn't ever game, just to see her have fun with a video game on her own, really warms my heart. And I hope that it can lead to other games, So I'm going to encourage it as much as you can. Now, I did say, I was like, hey, if you keep playing this game and not letting me play the Switch when I want to play something on it, I was like, we're just going to have to get you your own Switch now, okay? But,
yep, that's how it works. I had to get one for Nisa, so.
So we'll see. We'll see how it works. But so besides all that, I've been playing a plethora of games. I have been playing, oh my goodness, Kyle Martin challenged me to play Donkey Kong Country Returns and 100% it because I haven't played it since 2010. And back then I didn't really try to 100% things. So the past about a week and a half now, I've been replaying that. I am just on the final world, and how I'm playing it is I literally will get everything 100% wise in every world before I move on. Yeah. So it's kind of funny because I have my original save file on there from way back 2010, and I had like 75% of the game completed. And I'm playing it, like I said, completing every level completely. And before I was even to the final world, I had already matched what I had done in the previous file because I'm being so careful to cover everything. Yeah. So I forgot how. Not that I forgot, it's just that at the time, I don't think I appreciate Donkey Kong the way I do today, and it's really cool. I'm really actually enjoying this replay through.
Breaking news.
What's that?
It's not here yet, but in Australia, they just got the Nintendo Switch app on the iOS store.
Oh, wow.
So it may be dropping tonight. Keep an eye out, everyone.
Okay, yeah.
I guess people won't be hearing this till Thursday, but, I'm trying.
Yeah, Good warning message, Ryan. Everyone will get it. So I've been playing Donkey Kong Country Returns, and at the same time, on the handheld side, I'm playing Donkey Kong Country 2 again. I'm playing Donkey Kong Land 2. So I'm like going back and forth between 3 Donkey Kong games. And last weekend, I had a fun weekend with Kyle Martin out at his place, and the goon tried to get me into a bunch of PS4 games. So I got to test out the new Crash Bandicoot game, and I got to play I didn't get to play, but I watched him play some Kingdom Hearts stuff because I don't own those games, and some Final Fantasy stuff. He was just kind of showing me around, and but we played a lot of Mario Galaxy again, and Mario Galaxy 2. We were just revisiting those old games, and the Kirby collection I picked up. I picked up the Kirby collection 20th collection anniversary because I never had that, and I found it at a GameStop 2 Sundays ago, which was a steal.
Yeah, I saw pictures of that. Did you figure out why it looks different than the other ones?
No, I don't.
It says limited edition. Maybe, I don't know. It's pretty cool, though. It looks like you got quite a gem there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. To find this game online, it's like over $100. So I'm really glad we found it. I was like, we have to pick it. I didn't care what my financial situations are. It's a game that every time I walk into GameStop, I just kind of glance and look for it. So
the app is live in the U.S.
There you go, everybody. Get out and get it. You heard it here first on Thursday, recorded on Tuesday. But so, yeah, and I played some Kirby games and stuff here and there. But that's what I've been playing a lot. a lot to try to pass the time until I get Mario Rabbids in my hands or ukulele if that drops beforehand. So who knows? But man, Ryan, I think we should start getting into the meat of the show because today's a really special episode that you have picked out for us for our Game Boy month. Woo! So what are we talking about today?
Today we are covering my favorite 2D Zelda game, Link's Awakening.
Link's Awakening was released for the Game Boy in August of 1993, and then it actually got a re-release for the Game Boy Color in December 15th of 1998. Ryan, Link's Awakening, a legendary game, is it not?
Yes, it is. It's a legendary game in a pocket size, and that is what makes it so amazing. This game falls on the Fallen timeline, where Link is defeated, and it happens directly after the Oracle games. It's the same line as Link to the Past. So at the end of the Oracle games, he sets out on a boat, and he gets shipwrecked on this boat. He winds up on Koholint Island. And he wakes up and there's this girl named Marin there, and there's I wouldn't say love at first sight, but they hit it off pretty well, and nurses him back to health. There's Marin and Terran. I guess there's kind of a fatherly figure. It might be her father. I don't recall the relation there, but nursing him back to health, and I guess he nearly drowned, so at least he made it to the island and what have you. This game is so dear to me because it was me going from Ocarina of Time. Like, you know what? I'm going to try other Zelda games. I'm going to go with 2D. I was a little hesitant because at the time I was very like, 3D games are the best. Like, you shouldn't go back, like, because that's old, outdated stuff. Why would I play old stuff? I grew up on that stuff. But at the time, I was like, it's not the latest graphics, so it sucks. But I was willing. I had a Game Boy, and so I was like, I'm willing to try out this Zelda game. So I picked it up, and I loved it so much, and it was so relatable for me. My first experiences, things that really captured me, was running into actually not Zelda, but Mario characters in this world. Right. Like, and I didn't know this wasn't the norm at the time. And so like, I was so excited. I want to see more. And that kind of hooked me right there. From then on out, like there's like Goombas you can find. There's like Kirby-like creatures. You can find a Yoshi doll. And there's a lot of references in this game to the Mario universe. And that was what I grew up on. So it's pretty cool. It was pretty awesome. Jacob, what were your first experiences with this game?
Well, so you said that you after playing Ocarina of Time, you revisited this game. So you didn't play this game right when it first came out, did it?
No. It was, I didn't beat Ocarina of Time, so I had it for maybe a couple months before I decided to try this Link's Awakening.
Gotcha. Link's Awakening, man, it's a doozy. You actually, I won't lie, you had to make me do a lot of research because I never owned this game. I never owned it. The only experience I have with Link's Awakening was playing the cartridge at Brad Hunsinger's house. He had the game, and I remember just Zelda. Okay, I remember playing. I remember waking up on the beach, and really that's about it. That's all I could figure out. I didn't know. I never really spent the time. At the time, Zelda was not an important franchise in my life as a kid. So I'm not playing this. I'm playing it around the time you probably did. It was for the 64 days because I met Brad at the cusp of when I first got a Nintendo 64, and they just had a bunch of Game Boy games laying around. He had two younger brothers. They all had Game Boys, and it was just something I popped in to test out. And It never really caught my eye at the time. Really, I think it was probably over my head for me, maybe for my age. I didn't really understand it or have someone to show me how to the concept of Zelda back then. So no, I mean, I know what happens. I've heard the story, and I know that this is a very special game. Actually, a lot of people, this is their favorite Game Boy game of all time. Some of them is their favorite Zelda game, and it really is surprising. So that's really my only personal experiences and nostalgia with it. I don't have tons of nostalgia for this game, but I do recognize the importance of this game. This was the first Zelda game that was ever a true portable game. And Ryan, when I was doing my research, I found out that this was originally it was a port of A Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Be put on the Game Boy, and it's quite phenomenal the feat that what they could do with an 8-bit Game Boy, and given it to try to make it look like a 16-bit game. They did a phenomenal job, and they eventually obviously started into its own game, but that's what it originally started out as.
It's funny because they once they realized they had a different game on their hands, they had to approach Aonuma with some alternate wording. They had to call it a spin-off of Zelda because they didn't include Zelda in it. I mean, there was passing mention of Zelda, I think, briefly, and they didn't have the Triforce, things that were kind of staple in Legend of Zelda that you'd expect. And so that they tried to push it as a spin-off game. It's really the first game that they took and used a story, a developing story and a plot. Let's see, what's his name? The person in charge of the story, I apologize, I don't have that guy's name, was very much into kind of a romanticized writing, and he actually drew some influences from an American TV show called Twin Peaks. I think they recently did a reboot or something like that, but that was pretty cool that they did that. That they gave this somewhat of a love story, somewhat of it has a lot of emotion in this game for just something that's in a small package. It's very grandiose, and it makes you feel like the decisions that you make are going to cause all of these people on this island to suffer. But you also, at the same time, you're doing this to help alleviate this issue that already exists. I'm trying to be really cryptic without spoiling anything. I know it's an older game, but Jacob, you haven't played this, and I want you to figure it out. I'm sure you've read spoilers, but
I mean, I'll play it definitely. Actually, doing the research, I didn't realize, just again, like I said, I didn't realize how big it was of a game and how unique it was. And I think one thing that's always kept me away from it is because that, spoilers, everybody. It's all a dream. It doesn't even really happen. It's all made up. Like, the events of this game doesn't affect anything in real life because it all happens in a dream. So I think that's what's always kind of kept me away, is that it's never played a real plot to a Zelda story.
And you're not alone. You really aren't alone here, because a lot of people just saw it as a parody of a Zelda game, and they didn't really want to get into it because of that. It's kind of off-putting. But really, this is its own full-fledged Zelda game in pocket form. It's pretty crazy. Even the game, it started out as just a side project, kind of like an after-school, let's form this club. It's the Zelda Handheld Development Club. And they just kind of worked on it on the side just for fun. And it kept progressing. And as they got towards the later stages of the game, Miyamoto stepped in and started doing some play testing and offered some stuff. But really, he didn't have a hand on this story in the early stages in development. And so that was kind of cool that they did include some of Miyamoto's creations in it with Mario characters, Goombas, and what have you.
The story, I looked it up for you. It's Yosaka Kazumi who was in charge of making the story there that you couldn't think of earlier.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. The thing about this Zelda game that's really cool though is it really introduced, I think it for Zelda handhelds, the weirdness into Zelda. It was the first time you started to see strange things, like you said. I mean, this was the first game that they made that Ganon was not in there. The Triforce wasn't a big factor.
I wouldn't say Ganon is not in there.
I mean, it's not about Ganon. He's not a main character. He's not causing the plots of the evil plan here. Zelda, like you said, is just briefly mentioned. She's not really in the game, and it's called The Legend of Zelda. You know, but it was the first game to introduce fishing for Zelda. Now Zelda fishing is like a staple thing that you get in all the games now. But it was also let's see here. Like you said, it referenced so many characters from the Nintendo world. Which when you know that it's a dream, like it makes sense. Like, oh wow, that's why all these random weird things are in the game, because it's kind of a wacky thing. You know, when have you ever had a dream and you wake up and you're like, what the heck? Why did I dream that? Or what like you'd be dreaming about watching TV and all of a sudden the Nintendo guru shows up with a bucket of chicken and he was like 10 states away. And then he'll pull out a Jeep out of his pocket. And it's like, what the heck is going on? You know, this week was perfect setup for me because I don't usually have nightmares, but this week I had like tons of nightmares in my sleep. And so this is like really helped me get in the mood, like not even trying, like it helped me get in the mood for this game. Yeah. Let's see. You got. This was the first time Link got to fight Kirby before Smash Bros. Yeah, and you had to kill him, right?
They had slightly different names.
Sure.
I'm gonna refer to them by their Mario names. Like I think Anti Kirby was what it was called. But you could find Thwomps, you could find Goombas, Chain Chomp. Shy Guy, you could find Boo. Piranha Plants are even in this. You had a Yoshi doll. Mr. Right, or was actually a name change, but it was Dr. Right from SimCity, I believe, from
Super Nintendo.
And then, of course, Wart. I mean, you can't have a dream world without Wart.
How perfect is that, right? That right there alone, that was good planning on their part. That was good planning. Now, the music. Out of all the Game Boy games, one thing I have issue with as we're covering all these Game Boy games, I have issue that there's so many. Like the Game Boy games have good music, but that sound chip is it's not as fun to listen to per se as a lot of like home console systems are. But the soundtrack on this, man, I couldn't stop listening to it. I think it has a lot of clever and really good inspirational music here.
The music was really, really good. Like, and this was a time when I was actually listening to music. So I actually got into it. I'd have these, they were old Sony like Discman headphones, those big bulky things, and I would walk around with those plugged into my Game Boy and play Zelda. So some of the things that they did introduce in this game that were unique to this game, it first started out in the Zelda series. Probably the best, my favorite Zelda item in 2D games is the Roc's Feather. Being able to jump around is so much fun.
I think that was the first time they introduced jumping in a Zelda game as well, is it?
Yep. With the Roc's Feather, you could do the jump, and that's been a thing up until Breath of the Wild, when you can actually jump with a button, other than without having something like equipped or something. So that was pretty cool. You had the hook shot, which was pretty cool. I mean, you kind of had that. Did you have that to some effect? Did it appear in Link to the Past at all?
Yeah, it was in A Link to the Past.
Okay. You had one thing was kind of unique is you could. Now I never figured this out as a kid, but you could apparently press if you had bombs and you had arrows equipped, you could press the two buttons together at the same time and turn them into bomb arrows and shoot them. I never really knew about that, but I thought that was kind of cool. It was the first time that bomb arrows were really a thing.
Well, I don't think you really would have even thought about that back then, Again, it's a Game Boy game. It's like, how complicated can you get?
Oh, but they're so useful. I'm so glad that, this is, something that came from this game because it's such a favorite of mine. One thing you found in here was, I I'm just waiting for this to come to Breath of the Wild. But the seashell sword, it looks so cool, and I just want that so badly in Breath of the Wild. I like that. I'm a big fan of the seashell sword, which is when you got, I think it was 20 secret seashells. You can go turn them in and get this upgraded sword, a level 2 sword, if you will.
Right.
You can find the magic rod, which is the first for this series. Now, that's not to be confused with the magical rod or the fire rod. And oddly enough, you could use it to murder you some cuckoos. So
you could kill the birds in this game?
Yeah, with the rod.
This is a dream island, isn't it?
Fried chicken.
I did not know that. Now you know it was a dream when you could kill them.
And the blue tunic was an introduction to this series. It later became the Zora tunic in Ocarina of Time. But this is the first time they introduced a blue color for that.
Right.
Speaking of music, when you said music, there's actually some songs you can play on Ocarina. You could play 3 different songs. So that was definitely a precursor to Ocarina of Time. Do you think that the instrument would have been in Ocarina had this game not come out? What do you think that would have happened there? I mean, that's kind of an open-ended question. We can get into that another time. But.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned that too, though, because I think this. I mean, yeah, you had the whistle in the games prior, but this game had a heavy sense of musical instruments that was a theme for the game. Whereas after this point, musical instruments in the mainline Zelda games have been key focal points. So, I think I think that it entirely was inspired in Ocarina from using the Ocarina in this game. Mm-hmm. That makes total sense to me. And not to mention, like, there's like 8 musical pieces you have to collect. Is that correct?
Yes, there's 9 total instruments in the game, but 8 that you can collect for 8 purposes. Counting the ocarina, the 9th one would be the ocarina. So.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes. So yeah, and then and that only spawns off to other instruments in other Zelda games that we played.
Sorry, I'm going over the story in my head again. It's just so epic, but we'll get into that in a second. I did want to cover some unique collectibles to Awakening. You got the Guardian Acorn. You got it, and you took half damage when you had that. A piece of power, which I thought was kind of like Triforce. You got it, and your attacks did a lot more damage, which was pretty cool. I mentioned the secret seashells, which you collected to get an upgraded sword. And then there was a part in the game where you collected golden leaves to be able to get a hold of, I think it was the boomerang, and there was a couple other things there. So those things haven't really, that I know of, haven't really appeared in any other Zelda games. So there's some things that they can draw from and use in future iterations. There was a similar item from Link to the Past and Link's Awakening. There was the stone that you could get, and you could talk to stone tablets on the walls, and you talk to like an old guy, a sage, if you will, and Link to the Past. Well, this one had a stone beak that you could collect in each dungeon, and you could put the beak on owl statues and talk to the owl of the island, who was kind of a guardian. They had that kind of guiding, but then they also had another guy that you could talk to on the phone to give you hints. Ulraya, I think is how you pronounce his name. Don't quote me on the correct spelling of that or the correct pronunciation. So some of the enemies that you ran into that weren't necessarily, Mario things, because there's a lot. I wanted to cover some of the mini bosses and bosses. You did have the Hinox in this one, the one-eyed. You've probably fought them in Breath of the Wild a couple times, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I think that I'm glad you bring it up because they're not in every Zelda game. To be honest, I don't recall fighting them in like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, The Wind Waker, Skyward Sword. I mean, they're not in all your Zelda games at all. And Breath of the Wild, at least to my knowledge, that's the most recent memory I have of even knowing that this was a key villain in Zelda.
Yeah. So you got kind of a taste of that. I don't know if you've ever heard, but in Link's Awakening, the boomerang is the most powerful weapon in the entire game.
How so?
Let's see. You could take down a lot of bosses with just like 1 or 2 hits with it.
Really?
A lot of the enemies that you'd have to like be patient and kill with bombs. you could just take them out with a boomerang. A lot of enemies that take several hits, just take them out with one hit of the boomerang and they're gone.
That's weird.
Spoilers, you can even beat the final boss with a boomerang, one boomerang shot.
I was what? That's really did they not catch that in testing? Wow.
I don't know if they intended that just because they didn't want it to be too hard of a game and be accessible to like just friendly to kids or something. But like it has the strength of at least 15 arrows because I think it took 15 arrows to take down the final boss.
Holy crap!
And so like you could just do it with just one quick throw of the boomerang. And I was like going through it and like I was going through again and I'd throw the boomerang and be like, wow, this makes things so much easier. Who needs a sword?
Why can't we kill Lionels that easily in Breath of the Wild, right? A golden Lionel.
Yeah, they're definitely not as strong as they used to be in this game.
Right. Wow, I didn't know. I see because I haven't played it, so I wouldn't know. But Ryan, I know. Talk to me about the story. I know the story is unique. I know it's again, it's guys. We've said it. It's spoiler. It's a dream. It's not real. But my question is, would it be more like a state of what's that movie with the guy from Titanic, Leonardo DiCaprio? What's that movie? Inception. Would it be more of like an Inception if Link never collects all this? Like, was he trapped in his own mind per se until he solved the adventure?
I think he would be stuck there because it was a magical force that trapped him in his own mind at the time. The windfish is a great whale, and basically he senses that Link is a hero, and he puts him in this coma, if you will, so he could enter into the windfish's dream world. While he slumbers to take care of the nightmares that have entered into him and kind of be a hero there. And so I think that he would be kind of stuck in there had he not have solved it. But
so
it's kind of crazy to think of.
Died in real life and eventually...
eventually the windfish might have let him go, just like severed that connection and have him woken up if he couldn't succeed. But interesting to note, like... in the game, if you don't die at all, you get a secret ending. So that's kind of something to work towards. So it didn't have like your alternate, pick a second adventure like other Zeldas did, but it did have a secret ending. So that was kind of
cool. That's very cool.
Now, as far as the story development, you're collecting these instruments, and at the end, you're basically performing in a magical orchestra to awaken the ballad. To do the Ballad of the Windfish. And throughout the whole game, Link's friend, who he wakes up to, Marin, is singing this song and is kind of a big, teaches it to Link. And you take that all the way up to the point where you come up to this egg on this mountain where the windfish is sleeping, and you play that, and it awakens and it opens up the egg, and you can go inside and do a dungeon and fight the creature that's really causing all these nightmares. And each of the bosses that you fight and the levels are nightmare creations of this character. As far as the levels, they're pretty straightforward. Like there's 8 levels and then a final dungeon. Pretty standard for Zelda. I mean, all things considered, that's pretty formulaic there. The levels had some depth to them, some things that you really had to notice, small details on a small screen to pick up, like, oh, I can use the hook shot to get over to this point. And like, oh, I have to throw this big ball at these seemingly inconspicuous like pillars in the room. They just looked like they were part of the level. You didn't look like you could destroy them. Like some really like off the wall things. And I know like I got stuck in the second level of all places because I get to this room and I take out the enemies and nothing would happen. I couldn't progress any further. And I couldn't figure it out. And there was I had to use bombs, I think it was, to take out this bunny, like a hopping bunny thing. And I ran out of bombs, and so I couldn't get any further. And I got really frustrated because I couldn't figure out, okay, I'm killing them. Why is it not working? This is kind of the point where I parted ways with the game. I got bored, and so I went out and I took my shovel and I dug up everything that I could in that game. Like every space that could be dug up, I dug up each screen, each frame, and that's all I did because I didn't know what else to do. And so I just kept shoveling and shoveling and shoveling. It was kind of sad that I couldn't figure out how to progress in the game. And I tried looking it up online at the time. Or I think I tried looking for strategy guides or something like that. Really, really slow internet if I even had it at that time. I'm remembering possibly dial-up. Maybe I looked it up a year or two later. I don't recall completely. But even then, like I looked through the strategy on how to beat that, and I couldn't see how it was done. I couldn't figure out. I know that had something to do with this room. I just couldn't get past. And eventually I found out that you had to kill the enemies in a certain sequence. Now, how was I supposed to know that? And at the time, I didn't realize that the beaks were useful. And apparently, if you got the beak and you talked to the owl, it would give you the hint on how to defeat them in a certain order. But I never got there. And so, I just kind of quit as a kid. And I didn't pick it back up until I got the DX version, which is the color version later. And I had a little bit more know-how and how to get through those. And I eventually got up to, I think it was the 7th level with the pillars, and I got stuck there too. And I didn't beat that until much later when I got it on my 3DS. So this game, it's got some great memories for me. And I spent a ridiculous amount of time in the game, discounting the whole, shoveling everything in the whole game, which was completely unnecessary. At some point, you get a blue Cucco, which is interesting. I think the colored ones are very rare in the Zelda universe. I remember that it made an appearance. It was Kojiro, I want to say, in Ocarina of Time. Like it actually had a name there, but it was this one that could fly, and you could use it to get to the 7th level by doing some flying tricks.
Wow. So
that was a lot. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. While you were talking there, though, I pulled out my my Bible here, my Legend of Zelda Bible, the Hyrule Historia.
Yes.
And it does make some key points here. You talk about Marin and Tarin. They're actually they are supposed to they're reminiscent of Malon and Talon. Other Zelda characters that we've experienced before, but I wanted to talk about the placement of this game real quick. I know you mentioned it earlier, but it does take place down the Heroes Fallen timeline. This is after Ocarina of Time, but it takes place after A Link to the Past and after the Oracle of Seasons and Ages. So
it also takes place before Link Between Worlds.
Right, correct. So this is wow. It's all. This is the same Link who has crossed many adventures. Not all the Links in the Zelda series. I mean, gosh, the Link from Ocarina of Time. I mean, he gets to go back as a kid, I guess, and he goes down the Majora's timeline. But not many of the Links get to go down multiple adventures like this.
You see his visage. I don't know how you say that word actually, but you see it in Twilight Princess as the warrior that trains him. But he's like kind of dead there.
He's dead, and we really don't know what happened after Majora's Mask. We don't know his journey, which I'm sure one day a game will come out that explains that. But for now, we don't know. But the one interesting thing that it said says that the villains of the demons on this island actually are aware of what's happening. Like they're aware that if Link succeeds, that they'll be destroyed. So yes. In this state of mind, the book states that as long as if they can stop Link from waking the Windfish, they'll exist in this realm forever. Mm-hmm. So that's actually pretty interesting that the dream knows how do we stay alive forever. And the owl is actually, that you mentioned, is actually the consciousness, because the Windfish is asleep. That's the whole point of the game. Get the instruments, wake the Windfish, and you get out of this state of mind. So once the owl that shows up there is actually the consciousness of the whale. So I don't think the whale's not a bad guy per se at all. He just trapped you in here, I guess. But after you beat,
he's trying to get you basically to take out this nightmare that's kind of in his dreams and causing chaos. Its name is Deathel. And actually, you're kind of in Link's consciousness, but you're also in the Windfish's consciousness, because when you're fighting Deathel, he takes on the form of I don't know why I didn't see this and how it connected to Link to the Past, but he takes on the form of Aghanim. He takes on the form of the what is it, the Molduca? Moldorm, sorry. He takes on the form of the Moldorm, and he also takes on the form of Ganon. And these are all characters that Link has met in Link to the Past. And so, like, why I never made that connection, like, later in life, I don't know. I didn't. But, like, he actually pulls from Link's memories and Link's experiences to attack him. And it's kind of crazy that in this little pocket game, you're actually taking on, like, past final bosses in their forms. Right. Like, there's smaller shadow forms, but it's kind of crazy.
That's really cool that they did that, because, again, I think when you're in the midst of the game and you don't understand what this is, it can be confusing. Like, why the heck would this person be here or that character? If you really care about the story, I guess. Some people really don't, but it makes sense. And again, we didn't know the timeline back when this game came. I mean, this game came out in 1993. This game came out before Ocarina of Time even really existed. It wasn't even a real game yet, but yet the story takes place many years after the events of Ocarina of Time. So, I mean, when you got Malon and Talon, and he's having character visions of Marin and Terran, I mean, they're the same characters. They represent these characters that he's seen in his past, which is from Hyrule or Holodrum. So I think that is really cool and clever how they did that.
More on Deathel. There is some rumors out there that Deathel is a form of Vaeti. He basically goes into the wind fish, and Vaeti is all about wind. Right. When he shows up in later incarnations, and he's a one-eyed shadow creature. And so, like, a lot of people draw those likenesses, maybe an early form of him, or maybe a later form, or some kind of mutation on the timelines. And a lot of times, like, people even throw back to say that, like, when Demise was around, like, he had his sword, which took on a personality, of course, in the original, or the intro series with Skyward Sword. Like, that became Vaeti later, and this wind god or demon or what have you, it's kind of an alternate opposing force than what Ganon was. And they say that also maybe links in with Link's Awakening, with him taking over and infecting basically the dreams of the windfish.
Right. Well, I mean, technically, that would be in the future. Vaeti has only existed in past games. Besides, he exists in down the child timeline with the Four Swords Adventure, way into the future. But before that, he had only shown up on the single timeline when everything was just one, like the Minish Cap and stuff.
Yeah.
So do you think that there is material here that, I mean, the Windfish exists. The Windfish wasn't a dream. That was a real thing.
When he wakes up, he actually sees it, like, flying off. So
right, yeah. He's like, hey, thanks for keeping me in this realm. Now you're just going to leave me here in a raft. Okay, see you later. So it's kind of like, screw you, fish. But do you think we'll ever see anything? I think it leaves the potential for future story of maybe not getting caught in a dream, but this Windfish could make a reappearance for some reason, I don't know, in a future Zelda game. Would you like that?
I don't think it's a matter of if. I think it's a matter of when. And I wonder if we're going to see Wart in a Mario Dream World before we see another Zelda, Link's Dream World. But that's kind of my thoughts on that one. Real quick, I wanted to go over the spoilers, the secret ending. So if you go through the game without dying, at the end sequence when you see the Windfish flying over, you also see a picture of Marin, the girl that you're talking to. And in the story, she always wanted to travel the world. She wanted to see the world. And so it shows her transforming into a seagull and being able to explore the world, like almost as if she was always that, or maybe like that's the spirit of her that was in the dream actually got to live out as a seagull and travel the world, which is really cool because she always wanted to get off the island. And that was kind of really touching. And the repercussions of saving the windfish means that everybody that you were talking with and interacting with all disappear. They cease to exist. It's kind of a heavy situation that you're put into. Like it weighs on your conscience, and it's an emotional connection, and it's very real and sad. And so like to have that bit of closure, to know that she's free to travel again, just made me bawl. It was so good.
I would love to see this adaptation of this game actually turned into like an anime movie. I mean, we're getting into the realm of what Nintendo IPs could be used for movies and cartoons and anime. And if there's ever a Zelda anime, I would love something like the main series of Hyrule and everything, but to make like a side movie, you know how Dragon Ball Z has a random movie out of nowhere? Like I would love to see a movie adaptation, because like you said, the idea is at first I don't think he knows it's a dream, but as you play along, you start to figure it out, and he's getting connected. Marin and him, I think, develop in a way kind of a romantic relationship in a way. I think there's feelings there.
There's a picture of them sitting on the beach. I mean, that like together and like enjoying their time together. It's really bittersweet to know that they have to part eventually. It gives me that same. I recall that same kind of feeling when you find out that you can't actually be with Soraya, and instead they have to be a sage and protect the temple. And it's very, very sad. And they couldn't leave the forest anyway because the Kokiri. So it's kind of that same dynamic where, like, it wasn't necessarily a childhood best friend, but someone that Link meets and is really, really sweet personality and somewhat of a moe type and beautiful voice, just a plain girl who just wants to travel the world. And Link hits it off with her, and then you have to kind of, that all goes away.
Yeah, I mean, you have to sad. Basically end the lives of every friend you made on this island. And it's kind of, I don't know, that's really kind of messed up. You know what I mean?
It is. It's a very heavy storyline. And as a kid, like, wow.
I mean, it probably would have been over my head as a kid, but no, that when you talk about it, I mean, I really see the masterpiece that was behind Link's Awakening. So, no, man, this is a great topic, and we had a lot of response from people saying about how much they love this game, and it's clear why. Great soundtrack, unique story, and that's the twist at the end, is that it's a dream, and if you don't wake the windfish up, Link ultimately dies in reality, and Link has to come to that grips of like saying that this isn't real and that I need to wake up or my life is over, essentially. So.
This is definitely my favorite Zelda game, as far as 2D Zeldas go. It was actually kind of close for me. I really liked Minish Cap a lot. Also something that touches on Viety. But I think that this one takes it. Like, sorry, Tom, it's not Link to the Past. I do adore Link to the Past. I recognize what it set up for the Zelda series. But this one's dear to my heart. So, Jacob, I think that brings us to the end of our episode. Care to do our due diligence?
Yeah, absolutely, everybody. Well, so guys, you may have known by now, or you may not know, but we are now on Instagram. So I want to direct everybody to our Instagram. If you could come like our page, we're trying to post a lot on there. It's at Nintendo NOS IN. That's our name that you can find us at. But you can find us at dayspace.com/Nintendo Nostalgia. You can find us at on iTunes or Apple Podcasts now is what they call it. We're on Google Play. And then obviously come like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter as well. And shoot us an email if you know we're posting our topics ahead of schedule more so now, and we want you guys to chime in. You know, if you see a game that we're talking about, email us or just message us or private message us, comment on us, reach out. And we really are always trying to push our Facebook chat group. So please join the chat. It keeps getting bigger slowly. But it's really fun. It's really fun to engage in the latest Nintendo news and to reminisce on games like this, you know, and what we loved about them and what they meant to us. So, yeah, that's all the places you can find us. I know personally you can find me on Twitter at NOSJacob73. So if you want to follow me there, that'd be great.
You can find me at Metroid Hunter on Twitter if you want to follow me there. I'll post news articles here and there and try to keep up with the latest tweets. Please check us out. Shout us out to people. Let people know that we exist. I've been talking to people regularly, like, hey, we've got this awesome podcast, you know, talking about nostalgic things. I have people all the time are talking about, man, I love Nintendo and the stuff they used to do. I'm like, we talk about that stuff. Come see us. Like, hey, and again, join in with our chat on our chat group. We've had some great conversations there. Keep up with the latest news. We talk about our memories and our nostalgia, and it's a good time. So thank you so much for those who support us, and we will see you next week.
All right. Catch you guys later. See ya.
Bye.